Well, hello and welcome to day 3 of the Rebel Mars Summit, Meet Your Wild Woman. My name is Emma Shields. I'm a somatic therapist, a soul guide, and over the next 45 odd minutes, I'll share some medicine of the Dark Mother with you. So we'll start with an invocation of the Dark Mother archetype. I'll share a little bit about my experience of her and how I believe that she can help us to face and overcome inner and outer predators, and how we can use her power for good. To close us out, I'll share some ways that you can work with her on your own, and along with the recording, I'll share a link with some more information about how you can journey into one-on-one archetypal embodiment with me. The first invitation, though, for you is, as you're listening to my voice, listen also deeply to your body, to your instincts, and flow with them. This archetypal energy is vast. It's wild. It's far-reaching and penetrating. If you're here listening, it will work with you on a subtle and profound level, and by listening to your body and your instincts, you'll gain really valuable information about how this energy wants to move with you and support you. The second part of the invitation is to do whatever you need to do to receive the information and be here comfortably. I'm neurodivergent, so today you're going to see me in my flow, which is going to include a need to fidget, need to move and to touch myself and to look away from the screen, to close my eyes at times, and to pause often. So I invite you to give yourself the same bodily freedom and pleasure. I'll begin the invocation in a moment. So before we do that, just take a moment to feel yourself now. And notice what's arising in you just before we begin. Before we even touch the content, what's here now. Maybe there's anticipation, maybe there's uncertainty, maybe there's excitement. Whatever is here for you is welcome. The Dark Mother is the one who uncreates, dissolves, destroys for the greater good. She is the one who knows winter, how to prepare for it, how to survive it, and thrive come spring. She knows when it's time to end and begin. She is the wolfish mother, instincts intact, who teaches her cubs how to snuffle and avoid hidden leg traps. Her power can be seen through her eyes. She growls from deep inside, and where she knows how to fight to survive. She is efficient in the hunt. Honed instincts waste no breath. She knows when to wait, when to run, when to walk, when to snuffle and sniff and stalk. And when the moment is right, without hesitation, she strikes. The death she deals in will nurture life. Her power shapes worlds. She is vast enough to love everything, yet beholden to nobody and nothing. Her vastness is connected to everything in and on this earth. Her love is destruction in service to the thriving of all that is. She is the power of love that penetrates and fills a space, that dissolves and destroys egos, systems, paradigms, relationships, and opens magical portals of possibility in the mess. Her rage is not cathartic or explosive. It is killer instinct, pure power, channeled with precision while maintaining connection with it all. Her knowing is innate, precise, impeccable. She knows what the impact of her actions will be, and she says, this might hurt, but this is what's needed, and I'm here with you through it all. She feels it all. There is no avoidance, no embracing. She becomes the primal wave that crashes without attachment to the experience of the moment, pain and pleasure, Grief and love and lust and rage and power, endings and beginnings flow like blood. She is alive in our instincts, our knowing, our intuition. She is feeling everything in the field and moving as one in power with and within it. She is another face of she who has been denigrated and separated from our collective psyche in the so-called West. And she is alive in you. And she is ripe for reclamation. So pause and notice what is moving within you after this invocation. Deeply listen. You can pause the recording, set a timer for 5 minutes, and journal, draw, move your body, cry, sound, express what's here for you before we move on. Next, we will talk a little bit about the predator. The predator archetype is destruction in disconnection. The predator archetype is destruction in disconnection. It is the extractive system of capitalism where the labor and resources of the many benefit a small few who retain power over. It is in the patriarchal ways of relating to women's labor, childbirthing ability, emotional mastery, all of our personal resources, as well as the earth's resources as a means of production and therefore something to extract, to take without reciprocity. It is also internalized in our psyche, showing up in subtle and not so subtle ways as our inner critic, sabotaging our efforts by nipping them in the bud, keeping us trapped in the tiny box the world says that's all we're entitled to by telling us that we are never enough, and ultimately shaming us into submission and smallness. Think about a caterpillar. It consumes endlessly, chomping away like a black hole, and part of its natural process is to submit to a cocoon and turn into goop so that it can emerge as a butterfly, which contributes regeneratively through its natural behavior. It returns to the ecosystem, it pops between flowers and pollinates as it goes, and it's beautiful. But imagine if the caterpillar did not follow its natural process and enter a cocoon. It would chomp endlessly through all the plants and eventually destroy the world. And these are the systems of patriarchy and capitalism, white supremacy, endlessly consuming without containment or reciprocity, disconnection from the natural process. So just pause. Feel what's alive for you as you hear this description of the predator. Deeply listen. Does it feel familiar? What sensations, emotions, gestures, energies, thoughts, feelings, images come to you? You can, again, pause the recording, take your time, write in your journal, move your body. Follow your instincts in this moment. So, how do we contain the predator within and without? Return it to its naturalness, its natural process, and have it become part of that cycle of regeneration. Psychically, the predator is big, internally and externally. So I believe, first of all, we need a supportive spiritual ally, an archetypal role model who is vast enough to take on and contain the predator. And I believe the Dark Mother is she. She is the antithesis of the predator. She doesn't extract and take and hoard and consume. She destroys to create room for regeneration and renewal and reciprocity. She stays in connection with all that is. And she penetrates with her love from that place, not isolating and separating. She shares power with, not taking power over. To me, she encompasses everything. She's the culmination of all of our reclamation work, and she is also the portal and the vessel for it. When we invoke her, she is vast enough to hold us as we cultivate the capacity for our rage, for our power, desire, creativity, our innate gifts and skills, our dreams and instincts. And through the reclamation of any one of those parts of the wild nature, we become the fertile ground that she is. I believe this is our great work, to contain and dissolve the internalized predator into a primordial soup, to repurpose that destructive energy through connection, and to reclaim our full creative power and the freedom to express it, both as destruction and renewal, but in connection, as a part of a natural flow of life, through embodiment of the Dark Mother. Pausing again, I wanted to share with you my own meeting of the Dark Mother. I first consciously experienced the energy of the Dark Mother through ritual kink spaces. I, as part of healing from sexual trauma, had done a dominatrix training, as you do, with the inimitable Anne Onomus, and was developing my leadership skills when I was introduced to a practitioner who was highly skilled in conscious relating, as well as both the kink and ritual arts. And through really deep connection, through sharing our boundaries, our desires, and in a fully consensual space, I practiced leading ritual kink or shadow tantra to explore the range of my power and what it was like to feel my power fully coming up and out and through me and over someone, but into someone. And what emerged out of me was the shadow of the caregiving I'd done in relationships over a long period of time. The predatory way that I gained power from caregiving and making myself indispensable while holding others at arm's length, remaining unavailable and at a distance, was made conscious. It was illuminated, and through the process of exploring that shadow, I dissolved into a deeper truth. I felt this vast, penetrating love moving through me, and it moved through me and filled up the entire space, and it filled up the space of my body, it filled up the space of the field in which we were physically engaging, it filled up the space in him, and it dissolved ego barriers that both of us had, and we both, but I definitely felt the connection to deeper threads of transpersonal consciousness. I didn't know what they were, I didn't know what they looked like, but there was something alive in the space. There was a portal or a thread that I could grab, and I could weave those threads through flow, through trusting my instincts, through meeting the moment into this beautiful, intuitive tapestry, really instinctively just dancing with it, taking us both into unexpected and very rich and deeply fulfilling experiences of our humanity and our divinity. And it moved beyond the interpersonal, beyond just me and this person here. We were together engaging with this bigger ritual space, this bigger energy. And it took us beyond gender binary. It took us beyond masculine, feminine polarity and into this really rich, nuanced, fertile space of my experience being holding space, leading, guiding, like feeling the connection to the energy, and while holding someone else in their deep surrender, taking us both and trusting my instincts and the creation of the space that we'd made, and trusting the moment and moving with that into a surrender and a flow with life. was this deep connection to all that is. And we were both able to access our power, both experience our vulnerability from different perspectives, both in leadership and receivership simultaneously in this really beautiful synergy. And after a fairly intensive period of embodying this energy and this archetype through those ritual king spaces, through Shadow Tantra, it seeped into the bedrock of my bones and started to create this shift in me, and really it shifted how I was engaging in relationship with men, with women, with friends, with lovers, with the world around me, and just really transformed how I see power and how I see relationships. And yeah, so I want to just pause there and just, again, take a moment to notice what's moving through you. What do you need in this moment? What's instinctively arising for you? What movements, what words, what gestures, what emotions, what thoughts, images? If you have space for it, to write it down, to move your body with it, do that. Pause the recording if you want. So I want to bring this down into really simple everyday embodiment. How can you work with the Dark Mother as an ally? I'll share a few dot points, and I would invite you to consider them or see them as doorways that you can open with curiosity, invitations to inspire you. And as you listen, see if something lights up for you. Otherwise, just follow your instincts. There might be something else that calls you as you're hearing these things, and trust that. First of all, slow down. Make space for your animal, instinctive body to just be right now, in this moment. Deeply listen. And whatever you hear, if there's a way that you can commit to that, whether that's staying in contact with a presence or an energy or a feeling, whether that's taking a small action or a big action. Continue to do that. Give yourself these moments of space to just notice what your body needs. You want to go. You want to run, if you want to stay, if you want to relax, if you want to cry, whatever's here. And let yourself have this regularly. Next, invoke her. Invoke the Dark Mother. Ask for her help and guidance. She will speak to you through the language of the natural world, including through your body. So often we have sensations arise that we feel like we want to run away from, or that we want to push down, or we want to medicate, or we want to eat over. And it's not to shame those behaviors, those strategies. But what the invitation is to just notice them, give them a moment of acknowledgement and presence. As she's speaking to you. Next, notice, and maybe I just said this, notice if there's a movement. Notice if there's a gesture, a word, a color, or a symbol, or a plant or an animal ally that you associate with her that comes into you through the language of your body. Maybe you notice this impulse to just like turn and run, or maybe you notice the impulse to make fists, or maybe you notice the impulse to just kind of like, racing back. Or give yourself some touch. You can always give yourself a few minutes with a timer, any time, to express that in your journal, through words or with colored pens and pencils on some paper, or with some free movement in your body. Even if you're the busiest person in the world, you can do this. You can't see my thighs right now, but you can give your thighs some touch. You can give your hands and toes some really slow, conscious movement. You can split your attention between what's in front of you and yourself. Next is take a ritual walk in nature. Set the intention before you go that you wish to receive guidance from the Dark Mother, from the wild nature. And move with intention. As you move, notice what you notice. Everything you notice on this ritual walk is her communicating with you. Next, move your body. Tune into your impulses, your instincts, and just give them space to move and dance as you relate to the space around you. So when I say this, I mean put on a song and just lie on your rug, even if you've got kids piled all over you, or if you don't have much space at all, if you're just on your bed in a tiny space, and just notice where your body is calling for attention and where it wants to move. There might be like something that wants to happen over here, and then all of a sudden it keeps going. And then you might notice that actually there's this really nice fun thing happening here, and then you keep playing with that together. And then all of a sudden there's like, okay, there's this happening. And then we might slow it right down. And if you have space for it and you can actually stand and actually physically dance and let yourself move to the rhythm of music or the sounds of nature around you, regular practice can really just help you learn and notice your patterns, start to see where you might be not as open, where you can find more options available that you didn't see before, and really lets you just trust your instincts. It builds your trust in your instincts and your body to start moving you through life in this more instinctive and powerful way with a lot of ease, or more ease. Some deeper work that you can do in connection with not just the space around you, but with professionals, is just exploring and repairing your nervous system responses. You know, when, as I just said, like when the energy's unexpressed or when it's bound up in the past, it's bound up, gets tight, and then it's disconnected from the coherence of the whole of us. When that's happening in our body, we aren't necessarily taking in all of the information that's available to us. And so we might miss cues, or we might not have all the options available that actually are there if we were able to read the room. But because we've got this bound up energy, it's limiting us from responding and reacting, and it's kind of helped repeating our patterns. And so loosening that up can just help us get more options. It can help us find new pathways to move. And part of that is letting yourself like snuffle for information. This is something that I read in that stuck with me out of the Women Who Run with the Wolves book. It's like when we're repairing our instincts, we're kind of taught not to ask questions and not to snuffle and to just go, oh yeah, cool, like everything's okay. But actually just taking the time to sit back and just to kind of use your senses to feel out the space and to actually allow there to be space means that you have time to assess if something is right or wrong, and if something feels off, it probably is, no matter how shiny it seems. The amount of women I have and femmes I have in my spaces who are like, oh, but I just don't know if I'm reading this right. I'm like, no, you're reading it right. You're reading it right. Your body knows if there's there might be a double bind in the response, but your body knows. So when we actually give ourselves space and time to slow things down, to read the space around us, then we can make more informed and healthier instinctive choices. And when I say healthier, it's like choices that are based more around our self-preservation. And that's a really good thing. Our instinct to run, to leave a space, to leave a conversation is partly for self-preservation. Of course, if we've got a lot of privilege in the space, then we need to be checking out whether we're actually under threat. But again, when we're all allowed to slow down and to actually take the time to assess, are we actually okay here? Can we sit here with this discomfort? Is this discomfort a good thing? And sometimes that's the wisdom of the Dark Mother. Sometimes our conditioning would have us leave or create a boundary when, create some distance and space because it's so uncomfortable and we don't have capacity to tolerate that. And if we can lean a little bit further back into the Dark Mother's arms, we can find more space to enjoy is the wrong word, but to dive into the discomfort and explore, is this actually what wants to move here? Because this discomfort, this difference, this gap, this space is full of creative potential. And what if we could do something different here? An invitation for you to explore. And I feel like there's going to be so many different levels of people here listening who've never explored their fight, and some who have really explored their fight. And the thing that I will say is that our fight energy in our body, that instinct to fight, is the instinct to stand our ground. It is saying it's healthy boundaries, it's clarity, and it's power. So the Dark Mother will invite us to, I think we have to go through a process of experiencing what the energy of anger feels like in our body in different expressions. And at some point, I feel like the Dark Mother is going to invite us, and she has certainly invited me, to channel the power of my fight, not into explosions or into catharsis, but into a very alchemized, clear, precise, potent action, into protection and into seeing what needs to be done, seeing what needs to be destroyed, and in service of what we are fighting for. Yeah, I'm really, really interested in how we learn to build a cocoon and sit with pressure, the pressure of our rage that wants to explode, and how we let that move within us and move towards what we're fighting for. And this is where desire comes in, right? So for women and femmes, our connection to primal desire, to hunt, to eat, to fuck, to enjoy and feel pleasure and to make and create while staying in connection with all that is a superpower that has been stripped of us, and we must reclaim it. Our fight will help us reclaim it. And this is the energy of what we are fighting for. When we connect to our desire, when we connect to our primal survival instincts of that lust and that hunt and that fuck and that yum, then we're going to look for a yummy future. We're going to hunt that thing down. We're going to hunt that vision, and we're going to make it happen. And it's channeling the power of our super fierce love, like our most primal desires into service. And we can absolutely have our individual pleasure. And in my experience with this dark mother energy, there is absolutely mutual pleasure happening. Like there's this pleasure and rightness in the destruction. It's like we know exactly what needs to end and when it needs to end, and we end it. And there's a rightness that feels really good when we're in that desire, because we know where we're going after the ending. The ending is the means to the next thing. It's the means to rebirth and renewal. And to me, this is the wildly awakened pussy and heart, like working together to penetrate the world with love, with connection, like we're in connection the whole time that this is happening. Like we are feeling everything. And, I know a lot of sensitive people, neurodivergent people who feel so overwhelmed with what's happening. And I feel like this dark mother, when we call on her support, we can find the capacity to feel it all and then to bring it in and alchemize it in our creative center, and to then use that energy of our fight and our survival to channel it, to cut, to end, and then to move towards the vision that we're creating. Just going to take a little pause, little pleasure pause after saying all of that about pleasure. So just inviting you to, if you're able to, come in to touch some part of your body if it feels good for you. If it doesn't feel good, maybe even just hovering your hands above your body or creating some space around you with your hands. So palms up, creating some space. Just before we move into the next thing, taking a breather. Something else we can do is practice our ritual skills, practice ancestral healing. So exploring where our, especially I feel for settler colonizer folks like myself, that ancestral healing and decolonization work within community has provided a soulful container and facilitated more of my ability to connect to all that is without overwhelm, to help me feel a sense of deep relationship with myself, with the place that I'm in, and to the world around me, to all of the people in it. And it's really helped me within that belonging, because I'm orienting to the space and the place that I'm in. I can meet and move the moment. There's more energy available to me. And that is a result directly of ritual skills and of ancestral healing and reconnection work, decolonization, reconnection to our roots that literally exist in the cells of our body. Like we have access to that. It's here. It's right here. And it can be really, really helpful to have someone witness you and hold space for that. I've found that myself. So, and I want to acknowledge that that's different for women of color, and it's not my area of expertise. I know that there's a lot of amazing practitioners out there working on decolonization for different bodies of the global majority, and so I defer to their expertise on that. But I'm saying from my experience as a white woman with Irish, Scottish, English background, that reconnecting to my roots through ancestral healing has been tremendously healing for my ability to stay connected and move. And luckily I wrote notes. And what that does is that level of movement and clarity allows us to see the systems. It allows us to destroy the hold that those systems have over us. Like there's still going to be a level of the soup we're swimming in, but we get options on how to move differently within that. And speaking of that, the next point I have is about building community. whether that's creative collaborations, whether that's getting to know your neighbors, whether that's offering the thing that you love for free, letting your instincts lead you towards options that are about reciprocity and building relationships and community. This helps us to feel that sense of place, that sense of vastness of the network that we are actually connected and plugged into. One invitation I have for everyone listening, if you don't practice this already, is to just let your family become bigger than the nuclear. Let the earth and all of its creatures become your kin. It's like see yourself in every living thing. And finally, just notice how you relate to transitions and endings. When you transition between activities, do you do it abruptly? Is there urgency? When you say goodbye to people, do you avoid that all entirely? Do you just say it quickly and scoot? Do you like linger and have trouble letting go? Like the invitation is to just reflect on how you relate to endings, and I want to, model that here. It's really, really powerful to let us orient towards ending. And, saying that we'll be finishing up in a few minutes, I'll be finishing my expression here. And so just knowing that ending is coming, seeing how you relate to it, gives us space to move towards it more consciously, to digest what's actually there for us to digest. It helps us to end cleanly when we feel like we're actually complete. And there's an invitation to pause at the end of completion, to return to void space before moving on to the next thing. So something we can do is just invoke the Dark Mother, ask for her support with all of our transitions, all of the tiny deaths and rebirths we experience, through our menstrual cycles, through seasons of the earth around us, through the seasons of life that we experience. And especially, Francis Weller talks about that we have entered the long dark. There's going to be a lot of deaths, a lot of transitions, a lot of endings, and there already is, like we're in it. And how do we, we need support. We can't do this alone. And we do, as I said earlier, we do need something bigger than us that has the capacity to hold us and move us through it. So we can invoke the Dark Mother for support for all transitions. And just start to notice how we relate to them. So these are there's some simple practices, there's some simple and profound, there's some more complex and profound practices that I've just shared with you, but they're all portals that lead to the source, that lead to her. And this list is just things that have helped me, that stand out for me, and that have all come in at some point or other in my journey. And I'm sharing it not to overwhelm you, but just so that you know that everything can be a portal. It can be a space where you can invoke her and invoke the Dark Mother. And the simplest thing that you can do, if you take nothing else away, if everything else sounds like too much, if you only take one thing away, take away that you drop into this moment and you invoke her. And then trust that you're receiving, like everything that you feel in your space around you, in your body, is all communication. She's working with you. Let her move you. So, as I mentioned, we're spiraling towards an ending here. And as a way to close, I would just like to take another, like a sacred pause. Just feel what is alive and moving you in this moment. Notice if there's anything that feels important to take with you. If there's anything that stands out that you would love to embrace as you move forward. Notice if there's anything that challenged you, that felt not quite right for you, and you're welcome to let it go. And with that invitation to, if there was a word or an image or a gesture, a movement, an energy that you could take with you from this time, what would it be? Give yourself a moment to just express that now. And then let go of whatever doesn't serve you. So thank you so much for exploring the wilds of the Dark Mother archetype with me. I hope it's been awakening and inspiring for you. And I hope that you embrace and feel some support and love from this. And I'm sending you much love.